Hey everybody, welcome back to another mini episode of where we get to know the people behind the Blue Nature Alliance. Today on this episode, I have Tony Warby from the Mindaroo Foundation. He's going to be talking about Blue Nature Alliance, what it means to him, why it's so special, and why protecting 30% of the ocean is important to people and places. Tony Warby, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's great to be with you.
Wonderful. Tony, why don't you just kind of let people know who you are and what you do before we get into everything?
Sure, happy to do that. My name's Tony Warby. I'm the CEO of the Flourishing Oceans Initiative at Mindaroo Foundation, based here in Perth in Western Australia, which is right on the edge of the Indian Ocean, which is a region of particular interest and focus for us. We have a broad portfolio of work that's aligned with SDG 14. We're committed over the next decade to really trying to tackle some of the big, most entrenched problems that are facing the world's oceans, everything from overfishing, impacts of climate change. We're doing a lot of work on impacts of plastic pollution, of course, which is a huge issue. We're also investing in a lot of research infrastructure and giving support to the marine science community here in Australia and in a post-COVID world, we also hope globally. So the Blue Nature Alliance is a core partnership for us that's focused on our ocean conservation efforts and, a really, really important part of what we're doing.
Absolutely. I love just sort of that mission. You're tackling everything. It's definitely a lot to take in and a lot to do. So we really appreciate the work that you do and your partners. Speaking of partnership, how's the Minderoo Foundation contributing to the Blue Nature Alliance?
So Minderoo is obviously one of the major partners in the Alliance, and we've committed a significant amount of money over the next 5 years to ensuring that we can grow the pipeline of sites around the world that we believe should have a higher level of protection and should be declared as marine parks, and working with all of the partners in the Blue Nature Alliance to achieve those outcomes, whether it's doing the work on the ground, building the political support, understanding the baseline science that needs to be done to really get a marine park declared, but then also as a partner, working to ensure that once those marine parks are in place, that they're meaningful. We're helping to develop, some programs around how we monitor the effectiveness of marine parks. What metrics do you put in place to make sure that those marine parks are effective over time? What surveillance do you put in place? How do you work with local governments, regional governments in the area to make sure that illegal activity isn't happening in those parks? And ultimately enforcement mechanisms as well. So there's lots of work that we're doing through the partnership, but within our own region, there's a lot of additional work that we're planning that will complement the efforts of the Blue Nature Alliance partnership through those other bilateral engagements.
That's amazing. That's awesome. To you, what makes the Blue Nature Alliance special in sort of this entire encompassing project?
Yeah, well, the challenge is huge, and no one organization can do this alone. And so I think the Blue Nature Alliance for us is really, it's a clear demonstration of the willingness of partners who are like-minded to come together around a common goal. And, there's so much that we have to do in this space. So really, there's no room for duplicated effort. There's no room for competition between organizations that have common goals. And so to be able to coordinate the efforts of Pew and Conservation International and Walton Family Foundation and Minderoo and the Jeff, to come together to really agree on a pipeline of work, and then to have a strategy around how we implement it, I think really demonstrates the value of partnerships and collaboration. And for us, that's why we're a part of it. We see our own effort and resources leveraged up. We tap into deep expertise across those organizations. We leverage the in-country presence that a lot of our partners have, which Minderoo doesn't have. And so that's just a huge benefit to us in terms of how we deliver impact in the long run.
Yeah, such an important aspect too. My last question to you is, we mentioned this 30 by 30, protecting 30% of the ocean by 2030. Obviously, it's a very big goal to achieve. Like you mentioned, the Blue Nature Alliance is in a good position to do that because, they're working together. It's a lot of organizations at different scales together. But what is it? What will protecting this 30%? What will that do for people and nature in general?
Yeah, so I always think of marine parks as the equivalent of a national park on land. And, there are just areas where nature needs a breather. They need a break from extractive activities of humans. Um, and marine parks help achieve that. They're not a solution in and of themselves. We still have to have really good fisheries management. And one of the big things that Minderoo promotes is sustainable fisheries, and we're deeply committed to ending overfishing by 2030. But there are parts of the ocean that should have a higher level of protection. There must be areas where the ecological significance is so great that we need to accept that extractive activities in those places is just not in our long-term interests. We have to have a sustainable ocean, and in order to have a sustainable ocean and in order to have sustainable fisheries, we must acknowledge that there's areas that need a very high level of protection, and in many cases no take zones or sanctuary zones. Everybody benefits from it, including ultimately the fishing industry, whether it's artisanal fishers or whether it's larger commercial fleets. If we don't set aside areas where nature gets to take a break, then ultimately, when we don't have sustainable practices within our ocean. If you think about so many of the fantastic dive sites around the world where there's rich biodiversity, there's an abundance of fish, there's healthy corals, so many of those areas are marine parks. And if you look around exclusion zones, around oil rigs, for example, the abundance of wildlife and the fish life is just so bountiful around these areas. So nobody can say that marine parks don't work, because you only have to go into some of them and just see how rich the diversity and how abundant the fish are in those areas, and the spillover effects of that into the rest of the ocean kind of speaks for itself. So we're a big promoter of 30 by 30, and we really are very committed to ensuring that there's high conservation areas in the ocean for future generations.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, I completely agree with you. Marine parks are an essential part of ocean conservation in general. And I just want to say thank you so much for not only contributing and having Minderoo be a part of this Blue Nature Alliance, but all the work that you do as well in and outside of it. So we really appreciate you taking the time to letting us get to know you a little bit. And thank you again for being on the show.
Well, thanks so much. It's a great partnership, and we look forward to doing some really amazing work together over the next 5 years. So many thanks.